That's some gospel for the feast of Christ the King. A pick-me-up, you might say. What kind of a king is he? Throughout the world, did you know there were like 28 at least kings or queens? Brunei, Oman, Denmark, Sweden, Swaziland, Japan, Liechtenstein, Norway, Lesotho, Jordan, Bahrain, Morocco, Luxembourg, Cambodia, United Arab Emirates, Monaco, Kuwait, Bhutan, Malaysia, Tonga, Netherlands, Qatar, Belgium, Spain, Saudi Arabia, Thailand. Now, they'd be kings to serve. They'd be kings to follow. They have the big mansions. We were in Thailand a few years ago. You can't believe the gorgeous country and the gorgeous palace and the estate. The gold like it's water all over. Beautiful. Wealthy. And one nation after another who has a king or queen shows off their wealth. What do you do with a king like Jesus? He's king of the poor. We don't have a monarch who rides around in bigger than yachts, ships that they own, or live in high-rises or palaces that they've created. Our king invites us to feed him. Not bad. Serving at the table of the king or queen, that would be a, you see those illustrations, especially of Queen Elizabeth. I mean, sometimes they give you overviews of her life and like what it is to be a queen, you know. It's not all cracked up what it should be, but okay. Sometimes she'll have guests that fit a table from here to the door. And every guest is specifically located, and his forks, or her forks and services measured. So those people aren't serving that table. They must get a shot out of it. Who knows what king or queen they're serving, what royalty they're bringing food to. But our Jesus is different. He asks us to heal ourselves. The word healing and salvation have the same root. He asks us to be saved in faith when we feed the poor. I mean, come on, Jesus. I mean, no wonder they crucified him, right? With an attitude like that, who tells us something that we don't want to hear, he comes as our shepherd, and as Paul's letter says, he's the first fruits. And first fruits, interesting. First fruits in the Old Testament offerings were literally the first and best fruit of a crop. Whether it was wheat, fruit, didn't matter. The best. You got them, you put them on the altar, and you burnt them. And the symbolism of by burning them, you're giving them back to God who first gave you everything. So Jesus is the first fruits offered to God as a human being, the first fruits, and then all of us follow. So in a sense, when we look at Jesus being called the first fruits, he's on his way to heaven, he's on his way to glory, and we're right there behind him, I hope. Paul is telling us not only that, we have it from Ezekiel, how he's a shepherd. A shepherd. Okay, we're going to focus on the poor and the hungry today as you get from the theme, but don't forget that this one who mandates us that we feed the poor and clothe the naked and serve the homeless, don't forget this one is our shepherd. He's not only the shepherd of the poor and the migrant, he's our shepherd. And we have to always focus on the ministry, but also the personal relationship we have with Jesus. And the personal relationship is very clear in the scriptures today. He hears us. Go to Ezekiel. He takes care of us like a shepherd. He'll find us in our depression, in our anxiety. He'll come out and he'll look for us, so he will take care of us, because that's what a shepherd does, Ezekiel is telling us. And you know that's Jesus' mandate to us. Yes, go feed the poor. We're talking about that based on the scriptures of Matthew today. But don't ever forget that we're mandated to feed the poor by our best friend who hears us and reads our hearts and knows us. And he encourages us not to get solipsistic, look only into ourselves, but he encourages us as he enters us and takes care of us, for us to go do the same to others. When we pray, he hears us. In our confusion, he's there, trying to sort us out and get us to understand him more and more. The scriptures are challenging us today. The scriptures of the judgment at the end of time, this is the allusion to. It's beautiful because they put the king, the Lord who could come back at the end of time, in this great seat of judgment. And the focus of his service is mandated by how much you fed the poor, clothed the naked, or give drink to the thirsty. And that Jesus, we presume he's talking about himself, sends us the poor as his ambassadors. He sends us the poor, the needy, Eva's Kitchen, Father English Center, Salvation Army, wherever we serve, the food pantry here. He sends us, the poor, as his ambassadors. So as we give a piece of bread to the poor, he makes it clear, you did it for me. You didn't give me water? No, it was me you gave water to. You don't remember contributing to my housing? No, it was me. Whether through Catholic Charities, Caritas, another social agency, it was me you gave a place to. My Lord, we'd be surprised at that. But what are we stuck with? We're stuck with Jesus as a poor, smelly person. Jesus as a poor, homeless person. Jesus as a poor, confused, or possibly deranged person. But all of these examples are examples of a society of people that are in need, who are represented by Jesus, and who provide for us reality. Because we've got to look beyond the smelly, the homeless, we've got to look beyond that and look beyond the facade, and who do we see? People. People like who's sitting next to you or in front of you or behind you. And that's Jesus. I don't know if any of those other 28 kings or queens could give us that much hope and that much promise as Jesus does. So we look at him and we ask ourselves, this is the end of the liturgical year. Advent begins next week, new liturgical year. So as we end one year and look to another, let's look forward and backwards at the same time, looking at the actions that serve the King of the universe, and go forward with the promise of continuing more of those actions, serving the King of the universe who appears to us in the poor. Maybe we can ask ourselves, how much am I spending on food or clothing for myself and my family? Versus, how much am I spending on Jesus in the poor, in the hungry, in the homeless, to honor him? James Smith, a commentator for Celebrated magazine, says every ethical decision is nothing more than a matter of how love for a neighbor is to be expressed in various situations. See how all-pervasive love can be and how hope-filled it can be? So it's the end of time. The judge did his thing, as we read in the gospel. Okay, we're all there in front of him. And this is Jesus saying to each one of us, you're at the door. This is heaven or inferno. Okay, so let me ask you something. Did you feed me? Let me ask you something. Did you give me a drink? Let me ask you something. What is your answer?